It's great to meet you, and I want to begin with this. It's obvious why you would write a book with your stature and your career, but what really made you write the book?
Well, I really only half jokingly say that it should have been called The Art of Procrastination because I really put on a clinic there in procrastinating. I worked on it when I got back from Harvard, and I spent most of 3 years up in Boston. And I love being back here. And it was just hard to pull out everything. And there's a voice going on in your head how much you can do it justice. And so I made a strategic decision that instead of it being a chronological thing, it would be more about, you know, signposts and lessons during your life and particular anecdotes that really meant the most. And obviously the people that did. Then I took a took a vacation from it for a long time. And the good news is I had a lot more, I think, to bring to it. And then I found a partner. I did 100% of the writing, but I had a partner. Reminds me of my mother because she's British and has the same kind of accent. And using AI to analyze, did you repeat? Did you tell the same stories? Did you, was there enough humor? And so she just kept pushing me. Her name is Christine Ely, and she just written a book called Approachable AI, by the way.
Yeah.
But I didn't want it to be a book that was as told to. I've been reading Emmett Smith's book, and while he doesn't officially say it's an as told to, he does give thanks to people that helped him and his team. And I'm sure what he probably did was have a lot of conversations, people record them, etc. But no, this was me writing it. And one of the things I did when I was at Harvard, ironically, they made a big deal of Emmett Smith graduating undergraduate the same week I graduated from Harvard with a master's. And I was pretty proud of that. I'm not sure how many people know about it, but it was amazing. And it was not a weekend thing. Joe, can I call you Joe?
Oh, please. Yeah.
Um, it was intense. We had 199 members of this special class we called mid-career, and we did 6 weeks of calculus and economics in the summer and orientation, and then we did a year of very intense stuff, and then I did another year on a $50,000 grant from the Kellogg Foundation. I've been working with the guy, Professor Joe Kalt, at the Harvard Center for the Study of American Indian Economic Development, and I developed a leadership program that was intentionally experiential, and I did that for 20 years. Every year I bring in 25 to 30 kids from 15 to 20 tribes, and it teaches you a lot about leadership and what isn't leadership, and what you believe in. And so that probably mitigated a lot of that 20 years of really not writing a lot. But I've tried to weave the book together so that it has some humor. I write a ton of poetry, so I added about 15 poems. I wish I had more.
Yeah.
Then I have some Forrest Gump moments, just because how do you predict that you grow up? In my life, at the age of 6803 Hampshire Road, we move in, 6801 Hampshire Road next door, Justice Byron Whizzer White, Supreme Court Justice, best friends of Bobby and John Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy was in their front yard the next day, the second day we were all there. Bright red hair with his dog. He'd walked 5 miles from Hickory Hill. And here's this man, Justice White, arguably the greatest football player of his time, led the NFL in rushing not once but twice for the Pittsburgh Steelers and then the Detroit Lions in 3 years. And the same year he led the NFL in rushing, he happened to finish number one at Yale Law School. So just an unbelievable role model. And then many, many years, 50 years later, a guy named Muhammad Ali moves in next door here in Arizona because of his Parkinson's. He was here to get the weather, but also his treatment at the Parkinson Center, and I got to know him pretty well. And so there's all these Forrest Gump moments, just ridiculous. Working in the White House, a lot of people don't know I worked in the White House for 3 presidents in my off seasons,
Yeah.
and I think the sports people that cover sports, some of them really didn't know how to cover me. They're like, "Oh, he's just a damn kicker," And my dad was very, very senior CIA. My dad died in 2009. My mom died at the end of 2006. And that'll affect you, losing
Yeah.
your parents. And then finding out at his memorial service that my dad wasn't just senior CIA, he was chief of station for the CIA in London at the height of the Cold War. For those of you who watch James Bond, and I know most people do, and they remember that James Bond reports to M, and M is the authority figure played by Dame Judi Dench, and then Ralph Fiennes more recently. And well, my dad was the American M. I knew my dad met with MI5 and MI6 on Mondays. His office was in the American Embassy in London, but I didn't know that he was the man. But he was
Wow.
from a family of humble cowboys in Colorado and Utah. And, you know, one of the reasons why he was chief of station was because he didn't carry that weight. I'm an important person. He was
Yeah.
just loved serving his country post World War II, service, service, service. And that's another big issue and theme in the book. So,
So when you unearth this story, you have to revisit all these chambers of your life. What did you discover? Was there anything new that you discovered, a revelation about your life that you didn't realize until you went into this process?
well, I think when you do leadership training with Native American kids for 20 years, and then you do your share of public speaking, you won't have much to share if you're not looking internally and trying to figure out what do I really believe in. And I will just express tremendous gratitude for having great parents, great role models. And, people can rightfully say, you're privileged. They use that word, you're privileged, you're entitled. Yeah. And what did I do with it? I mean, what do we do with it? That's the only thing we can do. And I was not born in with rich parents, but rich in terms of education. My mother was in the first full class of women at Oxford and was an intelligence officer in World War II in England with the Women's Royal Navy. And what did she do? She was sent to document the death camps and
Wow.
present about them in London for 2 years after the war, which she kept. That's another secret that was kept from us because I think she just didn't want to visit that really dark energy. But that notion of service is so profound. So what did I come out of? I think certainly just a clarity of how grateful I am, and also I think if the book doesn't help people figure out what's important for them, if it doesn't create self-awareness, if it doesn't help them, people that read it go, I'm not going to be a kicker in the NFL, but I'll nail another form of field goal. I'll ask great questions on podcasts. I'll be the best teacher that I can be. I'll be a better mom. I'll be a better dad. I'll be a better brother, sister. And then, of course, another answer to your question is spiritually. I think certainly the importance of spiritual health is really important. And I'm a lot more comfortable talking about that now than before. My parents didn't really talk about it a lot. I went to one of the oldest schools in England that started as the choir school to St. Paul's Cathedral in London, and then one of the better schools in the country, St. Albans, right by the cathedral. I was an acolyte at the cathedral, which is an Episcopalian school. It's where Ronald Reagan and John McCain and a lot of famous people had their funeral services. And so once again, okay, I'm very lucky to be surrounded by Kennedys and Bushes. David Kennedy was there. Robert F. Kennedy's brother Michael and David were at Potomac School when I was there. Um, Neil Bush was on the basketball team. I mean, all these things don't really matter, though. Is what did you do with it? What did you do with it? What did you do with it?
Mhm.
And that to me, you stay centered when you have a spiritual truth, a spiritual center, um, and of course, learning to be humble, learning to know that all those trophies and records, and I had quite a few. Don't mean anything if you're a jerk. Don't mean anything if you don't help other people in life. And that's where the good juice is.
So, you had mentioned having this, this clout, and what are you going to do with it? I will tell you one thing. When I was a kid, I grew up in Liberty next to William Jewell, and I used to go and get autographs from all of you guys, the Dino Hackett days, the Art Still days. And I remember out of all of the guys on the team, you were the one that had the depth. You looked at us as kids and literally talked to us like we were human beings. And I can attest as a kid that you were doing that and that your character, I mean, you literally, you ribbed us about, are you guys going to sell these cards? Because if you're doing it, I need a cut. And you would joke with this. And I remember when you said that, my veins went cold. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, we're not doing this. But you were totally cool with this. You guys played basketball. I saw a player the other day in downtown Lee Summit, Bill Moss, and I went up and I said, as a kid, I want you to know you guys were the nicest humans. You set the precedent for professional athletes for me. All of you guys did. So I just want you to know when I look at all the charitable work, when I see that you're in the Hall of
Thank you.
Fame and all these things you did in your career, what I see that you're doing right now is you're working with the youth, you're working with the homeless. You have taken all of these things that you've accumulated in your backpack of life and you're literally giving it back to humans that respect and admire you. That has to feel good. That has to feel wonderful to be able to be around and be able to do that in your life.
You bring tears to my eyes. I mean, I just think how lucky I was, Joe. I had incredible mentors. I think Bill Moss would say the same thing. He is one honorary SOB back in the day, but boy, we needed him on that team.
Yeah.
We needed a toughness, and he brought toughness with Dino Hackett and Lloyd Burroughs and Duran Cherry and Albert Lewis and Kevin Ross, all those guys. But you also realize, life is short. And what are you going to do with it? And I think Bill has found a spiritual center and a great wife, by the way. And you know, that's where the good stuff is. It never stops giving. And gosh, take 1 minute for somebody. I always find it so sad when you hear somebody, refuses an autograph. I mean, sometimes you can't but you can also say, listen, I can't right now, but come back in 20 minutes. Or,
Uh,
you're at a urinal at a stadium. The guy next to you is all excited. He's like, hey, you're Nick Lowery. I'm like, yeah, yeah. Or they come up to you at dinner time, but it's a privilege. So, you can say, hey, we're having dinner with my family and friends, but come back in 20 minutes or 30 minutes or something. And so they'll always remember if you took the time, and hopefully you're doing it because it makes you feel good. And they'll also remember if you didn't take the time. The work I do now with Champions for the Homeless, Joe, the people at St. Vincent de Paul have taught me something, which is there's no difference between the giver and the receiver. And if you can remember that, man, that is such institutionalizing in your soul that, oh, I'm not so great because I'm giving. I'm enjoying this reality that God's put me here, that connecting with people. That's really what it does, is you connect at a deeper place. And most people, when you hear these really sad stories of people that had great success, there's a play in Vegas for a while called 27, where it's, Jimi Hendrix and James Dean and
yeah.
all these famous musicians and actors who died at 27. And you could argue that maybe just they may have had great success, but they couldn't handle it. And maybe because they felt like they were losing that connection with themselves and with other people. So, that connection is everything.
Yeah.
If you're on the mountaintop alone and you can be holding 10 Oscars or 10 Super Bowl trophies,
Yeah. Yeah.
so what? So it's so cool when you see at the Oscars, you see people bringing their mom. Or
Right.
wish they bring their dad once in a while. They always bring their mom. Like, bring a dad once in
That's
a
right.
while, okay, please. But
Yes.
it still shows, the grounding. And people like Harrison Ford just gave a big graduation speech at ASU a couple weeks ago. But he moved out of Hollywood. He got out of there, and most of the people that have longer careers, um, they create roots in something that isn't tied to that godforsaken culture in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's rooted in the truth of all the movies and books and stories that and people and characters that they ground themselves in and hopefully bring to life.
So I'm curious, who was your hero growing up? Who did you look up to? Who did you emulate that allowed you to have such a grounded, successful career and such a wonderful outlook on life after all these
Thank
years?
you. Well, early on, Mickey Mantle and Sandy Koufax, but I'd say John F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
John F. Kennedy asked not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And the idea of just, if you watch his speeches, just Google John Kennedy speeches, his ability to inspire, to articulate difficult concepts, and bring that sense of connectedness. Obviously, in Bobby Kennedy too, and I've been lucky enough to get to know Robert Kennedy Jr. And when you're willing to put your life on the line, which he has and is, man, and it's separate from the politics, is the idea that I'm here just to, make America healthier. In this case, that may sound like no big deal, but dealing with all these, threats and attacks on your personality and your reputation, and not separate from Kennedy, separate from politics. Just when you want to make change in the world, it's not easy, and it's sometimes not just not easy. It's dangerous. So I love doing work with American Indians. Talk about staying grounded. Um, Very lucky that way. Native Vision, we started with Johns Hopkins. In 95, 96, it was on Oprah as the best new program for Native youth. I was in Kansas City watching Colin Powell, General Powell, present the five best youth programs in the country, and ours, Native Vision, which I started with Johns Hopkins and got the NFL Players Association involved. That was one of them. And that's now in its 30th year, and we grew from just a football camp with 10 tribes and 90 kids to 7 sports, 40 tribes, 700 kids every summer for 3 days. And we started it humbly in Chinle on treeless environment near the Four Corners with Christian Okoye and Mike Bell and Kelly Goodburn and Pella McDaniels and my friend Steve Willis and um, Clark Gaines, who played with us briefly and was with the Players Association. And, we just said, hey, we're coming out here to the reservation because you matter. And that's it. We're not paid. We're being paid in here.
Yeah.
Getting paid in here is a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You find that young Nick Lowery before you become this Chiefs Hall of Famer and see the world as a football player. And you walk into a room and you click play on a film projector and your life plays in like 60 seconds. Is that young version of you going to even believe that your life turned out this way?
Um, am I going to believe it?
Yeah. I mean, is that young version of you going to
Or
believe that you live this life, that
that young
everything?
version? Oh,
Yeah.
I think you put your head down, and I don't mean head down without losing, you know, and lose awareness, but just enjoy your life with a commitment that you're going to be the best you can be at who you are, the best Nick, the best Joe, whatever it is, be the best you can be at those things, and make sure there's a contribution. Just get back to that. There's no difference between the giver and the receiver. That's why I love working with the homeless folks. Quick statistic, because today's media are so limited in how they cover stories. I'll just leave it at that. And
Sure.
anybody that is media, fine, do a better job then.
Yeah.
Look deeper, or continue to be the one that does look deeper. I'll give you one statistic that's not been out there a whole lot. This is directly from St. Vincent de Paul. There have been 1 million people evicted from their homes in the last 3 years in Phoenix.
Wow.
1 million. That's 20% of the population. And you can't escape what that means in terms of desperation, in terms of the fact that too much of the population, even though the economy is doing well up over here, so many people are one or two or three paychecks away from bankruptcy, trying to do the best they can. So, that's a reality. And yet you meet people that have had everything taken from them and they have a grace about them. They have a happiness. It's sort of like, listen, I'm good.
Yeah.
You're good? Yeah, I'm good. And I'm proud of the fact that all the different volunteers we come on Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and then our next one's August 9th for anybody that wants to come at St. Vincent de Paul. It's just such a beautiful experience, connecting with people and seeing how grateful they are. And you're like, man. But we give away 1,000 pairs of underwear, 1,000 pairs of socks every time, 1,000 flowers, 500 pairs of women's bras, 500 pairs of shoes, chiropractors, 10 haircutters, incredible band, the New Destiny Band with CC Yaw. We had McKenna Breinholt sing at Easter. She was one of the finalists for, I get them all mixed up, but I think it was America's Got Talent. And just people that want to say, hey, this is important stuff. You're not forgotten. And doing it for 20 years now, 76 events. That consistency, that's the big word. If I had to say one word today, notice the people in your life that are consistent,
Yeah.
hopefully in a good,
Yeah. Right.
to be consistent, keep showing up. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed, he's back with the Chiefs as of today or yesterday. He was pretty consistent when he played. Patrick Mahomes, separate from, I think, not the best offensive line the last couple of years, but consistent in his passion. Obviously, Travis Kelce, just human beings, some issues the last couple of years, but for the most part, always a great guy
Yeah.
and a great performer, and almost always big plays when it mattered. Um, Look at the consistent people.
Yeah.
Andy Reid, consistent.
Yeah.
Um, that's what matters. Those are the leaders you can depend on. And look at how our players. Oh, my friend Harrison Butker,
Yeah.
consistent. Yeah, he missed a few extra points, but look at his
Oh,
percentages.
man.
Just
Yeah.
incredible.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I can admire that. Yeah, I'm competitive. Yeah, I mean, I wish I had the balls today that they have, which are broken in practice, and they are easier to kick. That's why one reason why I'm going farther. But Harrison is an
Oh,
unbelievably good kicker,
yeah.
and all those huge big kicks when it matters the last 7 8 years, and a great human being.
Yeah.
Harrison, I love you, buddy.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. After this long road of everything that you've been through and you've seen, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you, Nick? Who do you think you are?
Oh man, now you're making it. I don't want to sound narcissistic, so gosh, perception is trying to honor God's gifts in me, to keep working to search and mine the gifts that are in me. Because what I think happens is when you're doing the things that God intended you to do, and you know it, you can feel it. The gifts of the Spirit are intuition, perception, um, noticing things in other people you may not have otherwise. And for today's athletes, all the athletes out there, it's always been a bit of a narcissistic experience being, a successful athlete. It's even harder today with social media. Everybody's telling you how great you are. You're being paid 10 times more than we were. And I was the highest paid kicker for like 10 years, thanks to Lee Steinberg. And I think that all you can do is honor the fact to stay grateful, to do that work, to be grateful. And, today I just want to help tell other people's stories as well as my own, because I think that what we're missing today, which I already touched on a little bit, is connectedness. We are not connected. We're divided as a country. I have a twin sister, and we just spent 4 days in our birthday together, and we politically do not agree, but at least we didn't kill each other. We've got to learn to be able to respect differences of opinion, and also just to look deeper. The people that, and I want to be that kind of person to
Yeah.
look deeper. And um, there's a great book called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
Yep.
If you want to Google Eckhart Tolle and uh, Oprah, some great conversations there. But the essence of his book is really all the choices that we get older are about spiritual growth or ego.
Yeah.
And the appetites of the ego are very different, and they're not all bad. I mean, we use the ego as a kid to compare ourselves, to go, I really admire Travis Kelce, I really admire Taylor Swift, I really admire Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, George Brett, you know, Bobby Witt Jr. Boy, he's amazing.
Yeah.
But also that carves out the directions we want to go. But then the older we get, the less that matters. Comparison becomes not necessarily a great thing. And we begin to shift to how do I grow spiritually? Because those are things that no one can take away.
Absolutely. So the new book, Naked and Alone with 80,000 People, wonderful read. It's everywhere out there. Nick, this has been an absolute honor. Thank you for opening up your portal, your life for a little bit with us. I
Thank you,
really
Joe.
appreciate it. This has
Thank you
been
for your
great.
great questions. Go to Amazon. And by the way, the Audible book, Joe, is out in a week.
Okay.
And the hardcover's out now. So you can get a beautiful hardcover, which is just a little different experience than the paperback. But thank you for interviewing me and for being a storyteller. We need
Yes.
more like you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick. This has been an absolute honor. I appreciate it.